Whether it's bad planning, bad luck, bad timing, or bad inventions, well-intentioned bad decisions have plagued history for thousands of years. Welcome to Historic Hindsight.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Historic Hindsight. I'm John, that's Tom, and today we're going to talk about child geniuses.
Yeah, child geniuses. If by genius you mean child serial killers, because that is what we are
not what I meant.
Talking about. Yeah, that's not what you meant. Well, that's
not
what we're
at all.
That is what we are talking about today.
Not Doogie Howser style.
No, and if anything, she is not a criminal mastermind. So,
she also.
This is a double whammy. This is a child serial killer, and this is a female serial killer. So this is
double rare. Okay, so when did this happen? I assume in America, because we're the best at this.
No, this is not America, Johnny. This is England. We are.
Yes.
This is our problem.
Yes.
Woo!
All right,
our
England.
Problem.
How bad do you mess up your children?
So before I get into it too terribly much, I do want to. It's a shout out to Civil War in Hindsight. I had a time traveler, Lieutenant Tommy from the Civil War, came back and he brought me some Confederate tobacco and some Confederate whiskey from the Civil War, and it is pretty darn good. So that's why I'm still doing this. Because we just recorded that 2 minutes ago, and I didn't want to throw away. But
it was from time travel. Not. I don't
time
know
travel.
So
The serial killer's name is Mary Flora Bell, who was an English woman who killed a 4 and a 3-year-old when she was only 10 and 11 in 1968 in Scotswoods, which is like the western subdivision of Newcastle upon the Tyne in Northumberland, England. So first off, England, how many names do you need for one place? Come on now.
I mean, it makes it sound fancier, though, right?
I mean, I guess it's like saying that I don't know, what neighborhood do you live in? Like whatever neighborhood you live in Noblesville.
Yeah, it'd be like,
Indiana or whatever.
Yeah, it'd be like, I live in Sunblessed of Fishers of Indiana, of the United States.
Yeah, it's just too much. Nobody describes
that might be too much information, actually.
Yeah, probably. Now everybody's going to start spying on you.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna. Now they're gonna find you. Or for me, it's I live in Harmony, Brazil, Indiana. So, if you guys are curious to try to find me, it's the meth capital of Indiana. Don't bother. There's nothing here.
All right, so we're in England. She's 11. Were the two her only victims? That makes her a serial killer?
I don't technically think so, other than the fact that I don't know what the technical definition of a serial killer. I know there has to be a pattern, which she does have a pattern.
Right, I think that's basically
and it has to be
methodical.
multiple kills over a spanning of time. It can't just be like 2 kills.
Okay, at a time. Yeah.
At a time.
Okay, I guess that's. I mean, if they're calling her a serial killer, it sounds like those are the only 2 definitions or whatever.
Maybe. In any case, so you might be asking yourself at home, how does a 10/11-year-old go on to start killing people at 10 and 11 years old? And I don't want to be the one to blame parents, and I don't want to be the one to blame the 1960s, but it definitely was the 1960s and parents' fault. Everything about this screams just shit garbage parenting.
I mean, 11-year-olds shouldn't have the opportunity to get much outside influence.
No.
That might lead them down a dangerous path, even though they had a good upbringing. They're not old enough yet to have a good upbringing and then have it go awry. And
I guess this whole story itself might wind up being like an argument for nature versus nurture, and whether you're born evil or not born evil. Because spoiler, these are her only 2 deaths that we know of, kills.
Right.
And so she will go the rest of her life without
but
doing
not
anymore.
Locked up.
Well,
apparently.
We'll get there. Yeah, we'll get there. So Mary Bell's mother was a Betty McCricket, who was a prostitute.
Oh.
And gave birth to Mary Johnny when she was only 16 years old.
Yikes.
This was her second child.
Yeah. I mean, given her profession, it sounds like a hazard of the job.
Sounds like a big hazard of the job, I guess. Yeah, and I'll tell you that I don't know what I wasn't able to find traffic. I wasn't able to find the older sister's name or like date of birth, but she had to be not substantially older, but at least a couple of years older because of something that happens here later in the story.
All right. So probably, she probably got pregnant as soon as she could get pregnant, like 11, 12, probably, 13 years old.
Yeah, that would be my guess. Is like the first baby was popped out at like maybe when she was 12.
Yeah.
Naturally, we have no idea who Mary's biological father is for
the obvious reasons
of her being a child prostitute. During young childhood, Mary was left alone with her sister for long amounts of time as her mother would go and work in Glasgow, England.
Naturally,
because you're
not going to bring the kids to work when that's your line of work.
At least I hope not, although some of the evidence suggests possibly otherwise. Not to go into a lot of those details, but Betty was a very shit mother who exposed Mary to all kinds of abuses, both physical and sexual, from herself and from her other various clients. So,
she
not a great
chances are she sold her daughter into sexual slavery at a pretty young age and accepted bribes for basically people being allowed to have their way with their daughter.
Yep.
That'll mess up a kid, I think.
Speaking of selling, at one point, Betty's going to sell Mary to a mentally unstable woman who was unable to have children of her own. And Mary's sister, this is why Mary had to be her sister had to be at least several years older than her, would travel by herself to Newcastle in England alone to retrieve her. But in reality, she probably should have just fucking left her. This mentally unstable woman at least wanted a child and loved the child versus Betty,
she was probably like bipolar or something, and she would have had a mildly abusive upbringing at worst in that situation, and a pretty good one at best, and versus a pretty bad situation back at home. Like, there's no question whether that was a good situation or not.
Now, the man that we consider Mary's father is where she gets the name Bell from is a Billy Bell, who is a career criminal, who is also possibly the actual biological father because,
frequent customer.
Like,
punching his card a lot.
But he was an abusive alcoholic who was in and out of jail and would be arrested for armed robbery shortly after these murders take place. So, also not the best role model for a little girl.
Right. I mean, still just armed robbery. I mean, it wasn't armed robbery that led to murder. So
there is that, I guess.
So we're gonna
fast forward through that silver lining and shitty young childhood to May 25th, 1968, a day before Mary turns 11. Mary and her 13-year-old friend Norma Joyce Bell, who was also of no relation, but last name Bell. No relation, wink, wink, wink.
Yeah.
I'm sure a frequent customer or somebody else. They were playing in a derelict house in Scotswood, and now these are where accounts vary. So, Norma's reports is that she wasn't there. Mary claims that she wasn't there, but it could be some protection thing, that kind of stuff going on. Now, Norma's 13 years old, so she's 3 years older than Mary. While playing in this abandoned house, at some point, Mary lures a little 4-year-old boy into this derelict house with promises of candy. This is your 1968 Stranger Danger.
It was supposed to come from a dude with a mustache, not a little girl.
It is supposed to come from a dude with a mustache, but it comes from a little girl who's like, "I'll give you candy." And I have to point this out. This is a 4-year-old child who's just playing on his own.
Yep.
Because the parents, I guess in Scotswood, or they thought, the kids can go off and play as long as the older kids are watching them. Who cares? As long as the kids come back home for mid-afternoon tea or evening tea, which is, I guess, English dinner, it was fine. It's like, like with us when we were growing up as kids in the 80s.
Sure, I'd go out with the neighborhood and the older kids would be there too. And so my mom would be like, okay, I guess since you're younger and so you can go and
But we weren't 4, Johnny.
No, this was like 6, 7, 8, years old.
Around that
elementary school at least.
Elementary school at least, yes. Not preschool. So she promises this kid, his name is Martin Brown. She promises him candy. He comes in the derelict house and she strangles him to death. So
why?
No, she never gives any reason as to why she did this. She just strangles the kid to death. And a
lot of repressed anger and rage, I would guess.
Probably a lot of repressed anger and rage.
Didn't really learn how to deal with being, sold by your mother.
So when Martin Brown does not come home for the evening tea, which is the most British thing in the world, like tea and crumpets, and he's not home for the tea and crumpets, parents get a little bit worried. So they call the police in Newcastle, and the police in Newcastle are like, okay, I guess we have a 4-year-old kid missing. To hell with the parents letting the kid wander the streets but again, I guess this is pre-child protective services. At least in the United States, it's pre-child protective services. So I imagine that doesn't exist in England at this time yet either. So they go off and look for this child. The next day, 2 boys find the poor little Martin in the derelict house when they're playing in the derelict house. Find him dead. Shortly after they find him dead, who's to show up but Mary and Norma, who are like, holy shit, there's a dead body here. Oh, no.
Oh, wow.
Oh, no.
I can't believe it. Who is it? When did it happen? How did it happen?
And poor little Martin, when the police arrive, is found with a little bit of blood, just a little bit of blood coming out of his mouth. And next to him is an open bottle of painkillers. So the police in Newcastle, who are the utmost best police in England, from what I hear, look at that and say, oh, well, must have been an accidental death or perhaps suicide. As a 4-year-old, just decided
he decided he was going to
eating a bottle of pills,
crawl into a derelict house and OD on the pills that he had gotten addicted to, no doubt, because he was probably just going for the high at this point. But
yeah,
you start chasing that dragon.
Yes, got a hold of fucking painkillers
as
a 4-year-old
and could open the bottle.
Yeah, and so I think this is probably child safety things. And the police are like, it must have just been an accident. So they tell the parents, hey, he accidentally OD'd in the derelict house.
This is the 60s, late 60s. They had coroners.
Yeah, they had coroners, and they had
they could do an autopsy.
Yeah, they could have, and they could have done a.
And they would have realized that his neck was broken, trachea broken, something. There was. Yeah. Bruising probably, and strangulation is not something that's easy to hide. I don't think.
I don't know anybody who has ever OD'd or like that kind of stuff. But is blood coming out of a mouth normal for OD?
I mean, if it's something that would make your stomach bleed or something like that, eventually it will.
I guess. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, in any case, so they chalk it up to accidental death.
Okay. To be fair to them, that's a whole lot easier and
than saying that 4-year-old
than being like, hey, you know what? Yeah, somebody strangled and murdered this 4-year-old. You can deal with like, oh, that's a tragic thing that happened, but when you start having to imagine somebody murdering a 4-year-old,
yeah, I guess, and By the way, if you're thinking, oh, well, the past was, we didn't lock our doors in the 60s and the 50s were such a golden age. Yeah. The crime was way worse back then. Oh. It's just that mass media didn't exist, so we weren't really worried about it, but it still was super bad. So the police still would have known about people killing children, so they would have been like, it could have been a murder. Now, if that wasn't bad enough to make you think the police were shitbags, several days later, Norma and Mary are going to break into the nursery school, or the preschool, I guess for an English term, American term. Not
sure. Yeah.
And they're going to tear up the school. They're going to flip over desks.
Just vandalizing.
They're just going to vandalize the shit out of the school. But they're going to write several notes. One of the notes says, I quote, "I murder so that I may come back." And another note says, "We did murder Martin Brown." So at this point, the police should be looking at those notes going, well,
that's pretty messed up.
That's pretty messed
Somebody's
up.
looking for attention. Somebody wants us to know.
Yeah, somebody broke in.
A calling card.
Yeah, this is a calling card. Somebody broke into the preschool where Martin Brown went, vandalized it, and wrote, "I murdered him." Now you might be thinking, okay, if this is high school, I might agree with the police and say, it's probably just a prank. Some high school students trashed the place, but this is a preschool.
Why are they so mad at Martin Brown?
No 4-year-old is flipping over desk saying we killed him. No 4-year-olds doing that. No. But again, the police chalk it up to, it's just
kids will be kids.
Kids will be kids. Not connected at all. This is not a murder. This is just
they admitted it in chalk in probably pretty poor 11-year-old handwriting, but not going to look into anything here.
And meanwhile, Mary is telling everybody that I did it. I strangled that kid. I was like, bah, 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 bah.
She's 11.
I got excited. I liked how it felt. I mean, watching the life go out of that guy's eye, it was great. She's telling her friends this. Meanwhile, the police are like riding around on their motorcycles going, nope. It's completely coincidental. She's telling tall tales as a
Okay, maybe investigate.
11.
Maybe bring her in. Maybe talk to her parents. Find her parents. Investigate her childhood. See what's going on.
That's going to be the hard part, is finding the damn parents.
At least one of them you should be able to find. Like, she's got a schedule.
Stranger still, Johnny. I buckle up, by the way, guys, because this is, if you're not already turning off this from just a pure like weirdness.
Don't blame you.
Don't blame you.
Don't want to be here.
So she decides to go to Martin Brown's parents' house. Mary does.
What
knock
is her
on the door.
beef with Martin Brown?
I don't know. She goes up to the house. She knocks on the door. Mommy Martin Brown comes and answers the door, and she goes, "Hey, can I see Martin?" Now, Mommy Martin Brown, not knowing that Mary killed her son, and not in seeing a 11-year-old child, went, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry, sweetheart."
Yeah, you don't know.
Martin passed away. It was a horrible accident. Apparently, he had an addiction to my opioids and ate a bottle full chasing that dragon.
I should have known when I found the tiny hair ties around his arm trying to get the veins out.
All the track marks where he melted it down in a spoon and just started injecting it. So she tells him that Martin's murdered. And this, again, should have clued off police, because what Mary does is looks at the mom dead in the eyes and says, "Oh, I know. I want to see the body." So the mom, being freaked out, says, "Bye," and closes the door in her face. Rightfully so.
I mean, come on. Why is nobody doing... I don't like this.
Yeah, I told you, Johnny, you're not going to like this episode.
I wish we were talking about Doogie Howser now.
We're not talking about Doogie Howser. This is definitely not Doogie Howser. Now we're going to fast forward to the second murder here, which is going to occur on July 31st. So several months later, 7 months go by. She's been a creeper. She's like seen like fucking cheering at like the funeral processions, like yay, like laughing maniacally and shit. She's an odd.
And
duck.
everybody just thought she was an awful human being that's like
well, her mom's a
into
prostitute,
people
so.
suffering and being upset or whatever. And so
I guess.
That's why they just played it off as, oh, she couldn't have possibly done the thing that she's told many people about many times and seems to be joyous about. She couldn't have possibly done that.
No way she could have done that. Now, on July 31st, 1968, this is her second murder. The two girls, Mary and Norma, find a three-year-old child, Brian Howe, playing in the street by himself.
Okay, all right.
Three.
Okay.
Three.
I don't want to victim blame.
I don't think my 3-year-old could barely form a friggin' sentence. When he was 3.
Might be issues.
Well, he was a little.
Your kids are great, Tommy. But still, 3 years old. This is not the parents just being like, oh, you can go and play in a safe area with some older kids. I'm not letting my 3-year-old play with older kids. F that. He's not on the same level as them. He's not in the same wavelength.
My 3-year-old would have an absolute fit when I dropped him off to daycare. Like, just bawling fit, like tantrum. Like, he never wanted to be away from me. So I can't imagine, like, hey, go play outside, Owen, have at it. And he would have gone out and played outside by himself. Like, that would have never, no.
Well, when he's been being told that since he was probably 1.5, I guess. Like, and again, as soon as you can walk outside and find someone to play with. Keep yourself busy.
He has an older sister.
I don't know why that's the voice that I go to for parents here.
He's got an older sister, but she's not with him. He's legitimately out in the street by himself as a 3-year-old. So again, not victim blaming, but parents.
Right. Or maybe older sister if the parents said, take your son, your brother with you or whatever, and then keep an eye on him, and then she just bounced to, I don't know.
Hey, apparently we have 12-year-olds
somewhere.
That's what I'm saying. We have 12-year-olds as parents in this story, so that's probably not too far from the truth.
Oh my God!
These two girls find little Brian.
They find a 3-year-old. Do they lure him in the same thing, or are they gonna experiment and get a little?
They're gonna lure him into what's called a weeded wasteland over by a pile of abandoned bricks in Scotswood region. And they're going to strangle him to death. So this is where the serial killer comes in. Same mode.
Same method.
Here. Same method. And they proceed to carve what ends up being an M into his chest for Mary, but what actually the police find out later is an N. It starts out as an N for Norma, and then gets changed to an M by Mary at a little bit later time. But by the way, not spoiler, but like caution for graphicness here. They carve an M into his chest with a pair of scissors, and then they start cutting his legs, they start cutting off his hair, and they start mutilating his genitals because this is a child, Mary, who's been sexually abused for her whole life and doesn't know how to process that. So I don't necessarily fully blame her for, acting out, but this is too far.
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit too far. And so she starts cutting off this poor little boy's genitals, and they go home like nothing ever happened. Like, boop, 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 boop. The next day, obviously that night, when little 3-year-old doesn't show up for evening tea, calls the police. There's a search that follows the next day. Mary and Norma volunteer to help in this search, including bringing the sister involved. So they all go start wandering around the village looking for this little poor child.
I wonder how they found him.
They don't find him that day, and in fact,
so they just wanted to be a part of the search. They just wanted to be a part of the people worrying.
This is serial killer shit right here.
Like they wanted to be a part of the experience of people finding him by themselves and worrying and just being near the scene of everything.
A lot of serial killers go back to the scene of the crime
to
relive it, and they want the attention, so they're usually found in these areas. So it's not surprising that they're there with the search party. The sister and them go to where the wasteland is, and Mary and Norma tell the sister, "Hey, look, no, we don't need to go over there. There's no way a body. There's no way.
How's he gonna get over there?
There's no way he got into those weeds by those bricks.
You'd have to drag him in this very specific way, like we did, to get him over there.
There's no way that happened. So they do find his body, and they find him mutilated. The police do not release any information about the death. No, they go, well, this isn't suicide. He definitely didn't do that. He definitely didn't do that. No man's doing that to himself, let alone a 3-year-old boy. So,
God, that's so.
So the police know they have the police know they have a problem now, and now they're looking at Martin Brown's death and going,
maybe we missed something.
Maybe we missed something. Maybe Brian and Martin are linked together. So, but they're still thinking.
Who could it be linked with? I wonder. Maybe. If only there was somebody telling us all sorts of information about this that we could talk to.
But the police don't jump to her right off the bat, to Mary. Because, again, I don't blame police for this. Because what police officer is going to be like, she's thinking an 11-year-old did this?
What kind of 11-year-old is going to be? Like, not only, because, you could see if they were playing games of some sort, like a cop robber thing, whatever, tied up, and they ended up choking on rope, something like that. You could see that.
But what kid is mutilating
the
body?
Purposeful mutilation like that. Yeah. I can see why they would not expect another child of that
to do that. Yeah. So they're thinking that there's a child sexual predator out in the loose who's victimizing these children and killing them, which makes complete and total sense. So what they start doing is they start interviewing the neighborhood kids, 1,000 of them, over 1,000 of them total. They start interviewing them, saying, "Hey, have you seen a creepy dude? Like, have you seen
anybody coming around?
Around? And it's like there's a guy offering you candy.
He would have a mustache.
Offering you candy with a mustache. Offering you candy, and the kids keep going. Well, no, we haven't noticed any strange people, but we have noticed Mary, who's been like maniacally laughing about this shit the whole time, saying, "I did it." So maybe you want to go talk to her.
Yeah, maybe investigate that.
So the police go talk to Mary, and Mary goes, no, I didn't. No, but the thing is, I have not had anything to do with this, but I did see an older boy, playing with him, and he had a pair of scissors in hand, and I did see him punch him upside the face. So the police go,
oh wow, that's a lead.
Okay, so they go and they talk to this older boy and this older boy's family, and they find out that this older boy was actually at the airport the day of
he's like,
murder.
what?
So
what?
So
what do you mean?
He's good. But the problem here is Mary specifically mentioned scissors.
Yeah, that's a strange thing to mention.
They didn't release any information about this kid being mutilated.
Oh, okay, so nobody knows that he was mutilated.
Nobody knows that he was mutilated. Nobody knows that he was mutilated with scissors.
Yeah.
And nobody knows that his hair was cut up and all that other fun stuff.
Yeah, okay.
So
this is like the
huh.
classic gotcha. Like, nobody said scissors. Haha.
So they went back and they said, why do you know about the scissors? And eventually she confessed, like, shit. But me and Norma did it. Me and Norma totally did this shit together. It was her idea, because this is the whole kid thing. It was her idea.
Oh, yeah,
She's 13. She totally fucking did it.
Yeah, I don't care.
So
y'all both should go to jail forever.
So they go and talk to Norma.
Fine.
And Norma's just laughing at the police, thinking this whole damn thing's funny. And over this period of interviews, Norma finally cracks and says, all right, listen. Martin, what had happened here, is that Mary told me that she killed Martin. I told her bullshit.
Right.
Because she came up and she said she strangled the boy and she liked it. And I said, bullshit, there's no way you...
Yeah, not a chance.
So the next day, she proved it. So Mary said, all right, well, follow me to this derelict house and I'll show you the body. And then they get there, but they get there late because the two boys find it. So that's her story.
And that's probably why she wanted to see the body.
And then over interviewing, she admits that, all right, well, listen, so I totally was there for the second murder, which I'm going to look at my notes here real quick because I keep forgetting his name. Brian Howe. They go to Brian and she goes, all right, I was there for Brian Howe's murder, but I didn't do it.
Yeah.
Like, Mary strangled that kid.
Yeah, believe that.
I just watched. As the older child, I just watched.
You just let it happen. I'm only an accessory. Only an accessory to murder. I didn't murder him. I'm just an accessory. I just allowed it to happen.
I allowed the thing to happen. Yep. So police go, okay, all right, we got our stories lined up. We got what happened. We get to the trial, Johnny, and the Newcastle police decide to let Norma off the hook, believing her story, and say that she was just an innocent bystander, which is complete and total bullshit. Because at the very least, she's an accessory to the fact.
Yes.
Not after the fact, but to the fact of the murder. She was there. She saw it. She had at least one of them. She saw it happen.
And then also didn't report anything, which I imagine is...
Didn't report it as a crime.
Is some sort of a crime.
And the police know at this point, that with forensics, that the M was actually an N to start with, and that there was a secondary cut later that turned it into an M. So this bitch carved her initial, her first initial in this kid.
Yeah, she at least mutilated the body if she didn't murder
so at
the boy.
least she should be charged with accessory to murder and mutilation of a corpse, which I'm sure is a crime. It's a crime in the United States.
Yeah.
That's what. Who's that hot chick? My wife would know this. The hot chick who murdered her kid but got away with it. But
Casey Anthony.
That's the one. She got charged with inappropriate disposal of a corpse or mutilation of a corpse or something along those lines. So at least Norma's guilty of that.
Yeah, no doubt.
But is left off the hook. Just whoop.
Okay, if you're not going to arrest her, send her to mandatory therapy and counseling.
Which I hope they did, but it is the 1960s, and
well, I guess if they did, it was probably electrotherapy, and they probably gave her a lobotomy or something.
I don't know if they. I don't know if they did, but even if they did, it wasn't good.
Here, try this LSD, and then we're gonna electrocute you and see. I don't know
what it's like in England, but at least in the United States, even modern mental health is top notch.
Yeah, you can find good mental health care professionals, and if you are in need of a good mental health care professional, please go ahead and seek one.
Yeah, seek one, but not state paid as form of a punishment for a crime. You're sure shit not getting
right. Yeah, seek one before you commit a crime. when you can, Anyway,
Mary is going to be found guilty of manslaughter, not murder, on the 17th of December.
I'm sorry. Manslaughter is like unintentional. It's circumstantial or something like that.
I'm glad that you're bringing that up. So what they do convict her on manslaughter because of her age, because she's 11. They think, well, she's not completely, like her mind is
there. Okay.
Because she was a child of a prostitute, because of the whole circumstances.
Right. No.
She
had a bad past.
They say that she wasn't completely in control of her fast, and then there were psychiatrists who evaluated her and said she is a psychopath. You fucking think she's a psychopath?
Yeah,
Of course
I'm sorry.
she is.
I don't need a psychoanalyst to tell me
that she's a
that.
psychopath.
She murdered two and mutilated one child.
One, yeah. And
Very
so
small children.
So they determined that she can't be charged with murder because she's too young and she's a psychopath. So, like, she's not completely in control. So it wasn't completely her fault. So it's manslaughter. She is sentenced, Johnny, or the judge, first off, the judge says, and I quote, Mary posed a very grave risk to other children. Which is the funniest thing out of this whole story.
That's the understatement of the 60s.
Mary poses a great risk to children. You think
Probably
she
don't
murdered
let your
two?
child go and play with Mary. She's not
unsupervised.
You know
play
what,
date.
Mary? Your punishment? You can't have a babysitter's license. You can't babysit
no,
anybody.
No unsupervised play dates. So she is sentenced to the most British thing in the world. She is detained at Her Majesty's pleasure. Not joking, that's the sentence. Her Majesty's pleasure, which basically means until the Queen or the state says you're released, you're detained. So her sentence is indefinite.
Okay.
So we would hope that means that at least
should be forever.
She is in a mental hospital monitored by the state forever.
I'm going to imagine that the Queen pardoned her in a year.
Well, the Queen, I guess in England, the Queen never actually gets involved with any of this shit. It's just like
that makes sense. Yeah,
the titles and shit.
Yeah, heaven forbid she had to do anything other than show up somewhere.
Well, because let's be honest, at this point in 1968, and correct me if I'm wrong, I do believe that the Queen is just a figurehead. I mean, doesn't have any actual real political or legal power.
I don't know anything about.
I don't think at this in the 1960s. I'm pretty sure it's just a figurehead. It's the same Queen that's still alive.
Oh, yeah, no. She's been around
Queen.
since 1842.
Yeah, it's like 1742. She's
that
been
long?
around for
Okay,
a revolution.
wow.
She's like 350 years old. Fuck, she's never going to die. Her son,
Out of spite.
Prince Philip's like, die so I can be the king. And she's like, not going to do it.
Where's Philip the one that died?
Well,
Or is that William? I don't know.
No, William's the
Anyway,
new heir, I think, with the
teach us about the royal crown in the comments.
He's the one with the white wife. There's the other one that has.
Well, they're
the
no longer
American-
involved with it. Tommy, we are
American
not gossiping
crown
about
wife.
the crown right now. All right, tell me more about her sentencing.
So she's sentenced to indefinite. She's gonna spend her initial sentence because there's no in England. It's 1960s. There's no mental health facilities that are appropriate to send a child like this to. Yeah. So she goes to an
they don't have restraints small enough for an 11-year-old.
She goes to an all boys prison called the Red Bank Secure Unit.
I'm sorry.
Hold on, Johnny. It gets better. She goes to the all boys Red Bank Secure Unit in Newton-le-Willows, England, where she's the center of a pornography and sex scandal.
You don't
Shocking.
say.
You put a girl who's the child of a prostitute, who's been exposed to god-awful things at an early age, who mutilated the boy's genitals, and you send that child who's mentally disturbed into an all-boys prison, and you're like, oh my God, she got involved in the pornography ring.
I imagine this is due to a lack of an all-girls prison? Or was this a form of punishment?
No, it's a lack of an all-girls facility because
perhaps they should have decided to open an all-girls wing where they could keep her separate from all of the boys who are definitely going to exploit, take advantage of, rape, and do whatever the hell else to her. Like,
I apologize to our English listeners, which I do know we actually have a few. Maybe the Queen should have stepped up and put her in a wing of the castle, or whatever, where the Queen lives.
Tower.
Or the tower.
A tower
Reopen
at
the tower.
top.
Reopen
Lock
the
the
tower.
doors, throw away the key, let her grow her hair out, and if she wants to
Yeah.
be saved and get out, she can throw it out the window and have someone climb up.
Yeah, that one. We should do that. But no, we put her in an all-boys facility and wonder why she's being. And you know what? It's the most English. She was the center of pornography ring. I'm gonna go ahead and say on the record. I don't know. It wasn't mutual. I guarantee you, even if she said it was mutual, it wasn't mutual.
No, Tom, I think you're misunderstanding. When they say that she was the center of it, they meant center of frame. It was just director talk. They were just.
So after this, she was going to be moved to other more suitable children's facilities that had men, and, that had boys and girls.
Where maybe she should have started out.
Which is where maybe she should have started out, around Cheshire, England, and she's moved to a bunch of different facilities. Too many to keep track.
Bounced her all around.
And once she turns 18, she gets moved to adult facilities because she's an adult.
Sure, yep. Makes sense.
She's going to briefly break out of prison.
She's
going to break out when she turns 20 from Moor Court open prison, which putting her in an open prison might not have been the most.
Bet that's why she got out.
Logical thing to do.
Open prison in general seems like a bad idea.
But she's going to get out, and she's going to be, when she's caught, she's going to be punished by losing privileges for 28 days.
There you go. That'll show her.
All right, listen.
What privileges?
Just she can't have visitors. I guess
walks.
I don't know, or go on walks.
No library time or something.
No library time. No television. I get you, England, that you don't want to be American. You don't want to be so harsh on criminals. I get that. Totally understand that.
Yeah, no, that's fine. America goes way too far. Our sentences are too harsh.
But maybe 28 days of loss of privileges for fucking escaping prison. Yeah. It might have been too.
Well, okay, but to be fair, they can't add anything onto her sentence.
No, it's indefinite.
And so, what can they do? They can take stuff away from her.
Yeah, that's true. But by that indefinite sentence, by the age of 23, after serving 11 to 12 years, depending on how you want to start counting it, she's going to be released, Johnny.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, released. After killing 2 children, a 3-year-old, and 4-year-old.
Yeah, now, mutilation.
Okay, so in recent history in the United States, for one of our English listeners, it is now unconstitutional for a child, somebody who's under the age of 18, to be issued a life sentence. We can't do that anymore.
Oh, right, yeah, I remember hearing
now, in 1968, we definitely could, but now you can't. And so I don't necessarily disagree with the whole, maybe not, lock somebody up and throw away.
All right, I'm sorry, but go ahead and give me a double murderer who got 11 years.
But this is a double murderer of children who got 11 years and had no, this. I guarantee you the mental health treatment that she received in those 11 years was not enough to cure the whole You can't cure a psychopath. A psychopath is a psychopath.
No. What you can do is you can talk to a psychopath long enough that they figure out what you need to hear so that you think they're okay and they can get out and do whatever the hell they want. That's all you have to do.
And I have to remind you, at 20, she escaped. At 23, she's released.
Yeah, right. Also, so not only is the sentence, even though it was indefinite, got cut way short, no time added for escaping. You get 5 to 8 years or something added, and I don't know. I'm completely made that up. I do not know this. You get time added if you escape.
You definitely get time. Well, you get time added if you escape, at least if you're poor and brown. I don't know.
Well, you get time added for showing up late to lunch because they locked your cell too long if you're brown. They just add time. That's just what they do. That is our prison system.
So she is deemed cured of all of her murderous tendencies, and she is released. As part of the condition of this release, they recognize that maybe the outside society might not like her very much, considering she killed children. And so they grant her a change of identity and a protection status.
So do those come with monitoring?
I hope. I couldn't find.
I would
information.
imagine.
I couldn't find
anyway.
Because this is the '60s, so
right? The '60s,
70s. 70s by the time she's released, almost. Well, probably the '80s, early '80s, when she's released. But I can't find a lot of information. But I imagine that they do monitor. I hope to God
you would
England,
hope so.
that you monitor her.
Please check in on her because she's apparently still alive. Probably.
Degree. And I agree. I'll go on the record and say I don't agree with the whole life sentence in that particular situation where the person's locked in a jail for the rest of their life. But I do agree with the life sentence where that person's monitored and mandatory counseling and closely monitored where we know where she is
and restricted to certain job sectors.
Yeah,
and
maybe a
certain
bracelet,
living areas, and everything else.
Yeah, maybe a bracelet on her leg so we know where.
If we're gonna treat sexual predators and not allow them to live within X number of miles of schools and nurseries and whatever else, probably should apply the same to a child murderer.
By the way, this is random, not related to the episode at all, but just for fun, for Indiana history.
For more fun, because we've been having enough.
Indiana history. If you get bored, look up a man by the name of Tyrannosaurus Rex Mullins. Shit you not, quote that. Tyrannosaurus Rex Mullins. Google him. I believe it was an Evansville child predator, somebody who had sex with children,
right?
And he changed his legal name to Tyrannosaurus Rex Mullins
to stay under the radar.
What better way to like lure? My name is T-Rex. You like T-Rexes? I'm a T-Rex. He did get murdered by one of the people he raped. So
shoot!
No! But look him
Poor
up.
Tyrannosaurus Rex. I hope you suffered, you stupid little fucker.
Look him up. Anyways, so the aftermath, Johnny. Aftermath report. So naturally, newspapers weren't too happy about her release and began hounding her, and they found her. And so, they find her and they're like, "You're a fucking murderer," because she is, and you probably shouldn't be out and about without restrictions because you're a fucking murderer. Which are two truths. And so the government has to go through the expense. The Crown has to go through the expense of changing her name again.
Perhaps they should have just locked her back up.
But in her own dumb fault, she stayed in Newcastle. Like, why would you stay in Newcastle after being released? Like, you probably should move.
Probably had her eyes on some kids.
And I'm not entirely sure why the Crown... I don't agree with the Crown protecting her identity. I mean, she is what she is.
No. If you're going to say she served her time, you get out. This is what she did.
Perhaps
this is our American justice system bias coming out because we literally just let a prisoner serve their sentence and then kick them out with just nothing.
We kick them.
Good luck. Here are the belongings
you
came to the prison with, which is a pair of clothes and maybe a phone.
And maybe your $1,000 check from the 10 cents an hour that you worked over the last 10 years.
Yeah, good luck, pal.
Good luck.
Don't keep doing crime.
And then, of course, on all of our job applications, there's a whole are you a felon?
Can't get a job.
You have to check because how many places?
But please return to society and be a productive member with us taking everything from you.
This is our American bias, but
in any case,
we probably shouldn't just be freely wandering. But she's freely wandering, I guess. So they changed her name and identity again. 4 years after being released, she's going to give birth to a child, which is, I guess, okay for her. I don't know how this is going to go.
Nope.
I would be very
not
concerned for that child. She gives birth to the child in 1984.
Me too.
Yeah, there we go. It's
Was
our
it
age.
me?
This child is our well, no, you would know.
Oh, okay.
And so in 1998, that poor child is going to learn of her, which she kept at wraps. Like, she never told her child.
That doesn't come up in conversation.
By the way, children when I was 11, I was murdering kids. So what do you do?
I'm gonna read you Goodnight Moon, and I'm gonna tell you about the two small children that I murdered and mutilated.
So her daughter was likely playing with Polly Pockets and her Game Boy in 1998. And meanwhile, when she was that age, was fucking murdering children.
Yeah. You want to talk about how video games are dangerous? Yeah, go to hell. She would have been playing them if they were around.
She would have. So in 1998, this poor child was going to learn about her mom's past when tabloids catch up to the family and
fuck some tabloids.
Just lay that shit out.
I don't care about her at all. That's not fair to the kid.
The child did.
That's not fair to the kid. He didn't do shit. Or she. He or
she. I think. She
didn't do shit.
So the court goes through and protects the identity of that child and protects the identity of that mom. They give them new identities.
Took the child from the mom and delivered her to her good home.
No, keep the child stays with the mom. It stays with Mary, and Mary's name's changed again, and the child's name's changed, and there's a contingency in the law that until the child's 18th birthday, the court records are sealed and you can't find out that information. Of course, unless you're a tabloid and bribe some clerk somewhere. Yeah, right. So the court.
The child did nothing wrong.
They extend that. They extend that anonymity, but of course, the tabloids are going to find the family again in 2000.
Perhaps I'm probably not allowed to. I guess I was going to say perhaps they should leave the country, but I'm guessing
they don't. They stay in England.
I mean,
as far as records I know, they stay in England. So why America's not taking you in?
No. God, no.
We don't take in anybody, let alone felons, unless you're rich. I mean,
Well, they were white though, right?
They were white.
Oh, they would have been
fine. There's
fine.
that possibility. Yeah,
She would have made it.
So they find him again, and so she has to go through the whole court process again and gets her her anonymity protected again on May 21st, 2003, which extends indefinitely for her child as well. So they say, all right, the 18 thing, that's probably not appropriate. We'll extend that indefinitely.
Yeah, the child should never. They should be able to live as normal life as they can, having a psychopathic serial killer as a mother.
Now the story doesn't end there, because
Why?
in 2009 the tabloids find them again. And at this point, the child has now had a child of her own, which, again, we don't know the names because it's all court sealed.
Of course.
Protected. So now Mary's a grandmother and has to go back to court and fight again. And now the protections, again, for like the fourth time for Mary and the second time for the child and the first time for the grandchild, all the names and identities get changed again in 2009. So the story's going to end with Mary. We still believe that she's alive, as far as we know. As far as we know, she hasn't committed any additional crimes or murders. So this is where where the whole I said in the beginning about how like nature nurtured that kind of stuff. Like maybe it was a set of circumstances that she was, the whole nurture thing, and after appropriate treatment, which I know she didn't get, didn't murder again. But I'm not entirely convinced that the English Crown watched her all that well.
Right.
So if there's some
unsolved mysteries. Yeah, everybody watching the British version of
lives.
Unsolved Mysteries, anything involving a child, probably is linked back to whoever the hell Mary is at this point in
If a
time.
child got strangled, maybe look where Mary lives, because it might have happened. She might have done it. She might have. That's this fucking awful 10-year-old serial killer. Just what the fuck society.
Well, thanks for ruining my night, Tommy.
You're welcome, Johnny.
That's it for this week in Historic Hindsight. Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe, comment, and like, and join us next week when we talk about ice cubes.